Good morning Year 4, and this is your maths video for if you've got this booklet on Tuesday the 2nd of February. Now just before we get started, I am going to be sending Marvellous Me's to any children that send in their work this week, so I hope I can send lots and lots of Marvellous Me's to you all learning at home. Okay, so to get us started, we're going to play a game. And my game is called the halving race. Now we looked at halving last week, and remember halving is where we split, share or divide something by 2. Okay, so if I've got 4 and I split it into 2 groups, I'm left with 2. Okay, and what you're going to do is you're going to start here at our race. And you've got to work all the way around, writing what is half of each number. So I'll start you off and I'll give you the first one. So the first number that you've got to halve is 20. And half of 20 is 10. So the first number you'll write is 10. And then you'll go all the way around until you've done. And we're going to time ourselves. So you'll see here behind me that I've got a timer. And it's a timer that counts up. So it'll tell me how long it took you to complete your halving race. So make sure when you take your picture, you send a picture in of how long it took you. Marvellous Me to the person that manages to complete my race the quickest. Are you ready? On your marks, get set, go. Come on Year 4, keep going. Remember we're sharing each number by 2. We're dividing by 2. We've had 45 seconds. How far have you got? Okay, now I'm going to stop there. Don't worry if you haven't finished. You can always carry on using your timer or your clock at home. Okay. So before we move on to today's learning, let's just remind ourselves of how we halve. So half of 20 is 10. Half of 10 is 5. Half of 8 is 4. Half of 2 is 1, and I'm going to work my way all the way around. Let me know how well you did. Okay, well done if you got those answers correct at home. Now today's learning Year 4 is something completely brand new. You haven't done it since being in Year 4. Okay, and you might have done it in Year 3, but I think it was when you were learning at home in Year 3 as well. So I need you to have your thinking caps on today. So, your learning question says, can I begin to understand what a fraction is? Now, if you know what a fraction is, or if you've heard that word before, I want you to put your hands on your head. We do that quite a lot in school, don't we? And think, what is a fraction? Okay, so a fraction tells you how many parts of a whole that you have. Okay, so we work using wholes. And I've shown wholes in two ways here. I've shown a whole this way in a rectangle shape. And I've also shown a whole in a circle shape. Okay, and because it's not split into any pieces, we've got the whole amount of it. Okay. And when we write fractions year 4, you might have seen these before. We write them using numbers. We have one number on the top and one number on the bottom. And each of these numbers have got names. Okay, so the number at the top is called the numerator. Say it after me. Numerator. Numerator. Okay, and then the number at the bottom is called the denominator. Okay, a little bit trickier. Denominator. Your turn. Denominator. Your turn. Well done for having to go with those tricky words. And all they mean, year 4, is the number at the top. So here I've got a number 1. That means that I've got one piece. Okay? So whatever number it is at the top tells you how many pieces we have. And the number at the bottom tells you how many pieces your whole was cut into. So here it's telling me that my whole was cut into 2 pieces, and out of them 2 pieces I've got one of them. Okay, so shall we have a little go at representing some fractions? So here's my whole. Okay, and you'll see that it's split into 2 pieces. So where would my number 2 go? It's split into 2 pieces. Would it go at the top as my numerator or at the bottom as my denominator? Okay, so it would go at the bottom because it's how many pieces there are all together. And now I'm going to give myself a piece of this whole. Okay, so now you can see that I've got one of those pieces. I've got one. So where would that number 1 go? Year 4, where would it go? Would go at the top. Okay, so remember the top number, our numerator, is how many pieces we have, and the denominator, or the bottom number, is how many there are all together. Now here, I've represented 1/2, because that's how we say it, 1/2 with a circle diagram. But we can also represent it this way as well. So I've got my whole, and it's split into 2 pieces. Okay, and out of those 2 pieces, I've got one of them. So even though my diagram looks a little bit different, my fraction has stayed the same. Okay, and we say this fraction as a 1/2. And I'm going to write that on one of my boards underneath my whiteboard. So 1 line 2 equals a 1/2. Okay, let's have another go then. So this time you'll notice that I've got my 2 diagrams again, but this time it's not split into 2 pieces. How many pieces do I have all together? How many pieces has my circle been split into? Count those pieces carefully. Okay, so we've got a 4, and where would that number go? Year 4, would it be our numerator or our denominator. Okay, it would be our denominator. Well done, because there's 4. And then I'm going to give myself some of these. So I'm going to have just 1 to begin with. So where would my number 1 go if I've got one of those parts? Would go at the top. Brilliant. But what would happen if I've got three of those pieces? What would happen to my numerator? It would change from a number 1 to a number 3. Brilliant. What fraction of each shape is shaded? Okay, so remember our numerator is how many we've got, or how many are shaded, and the denominator is how many there are all together. So on this one, how many pieces do we have? We've got 1. And how many are there all together? 1, 2. Brilliant. So there we've got 1/2. Let's have a look at this one then. So how many do we have? We've got 1. How many all together? 1, 2. Brilliant. And you'll see that even though these shapes are different, the fraction is still the same because we've still got half of that shape. Last one then. So how many pieces do we have? We've got 1. And how many are there all together? 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's asking you what fraction of each shape is shaded. So you'll see that we've got some diagrams here, just like I had on my board. And some of them are coloured in, and that means we've got those pieces. Remember, the top number is how many we've got, and the bottom number is how many there are all together. So let's have a little look at A together. So this one's A. How many are shaded out of those? Okay, so we've got 1 shaded, so we would have a number 1 at the top, and then the line. And then how many pieces are there all together, year 4? 1, 2, 3. There are 3. So that would be the denominator. Okay, so I want you to have a go now at doing B, C and D. And if you look over here in the corner, you've got the fractions that you need to write. So we've already done 1/3. So I'm going to tick that one off. And the other 3 are going to be one of these. Remember, the numerator is the number we have. The denominator is how many all together. This is where it gets a little bit tricky, and you might need a ruler for these ones. If you haven't got a ruler, you might want to draw down something else that's got a straight edge. So maybe using your green book. And it's asking you to split these shapes into quarters. And quarters means 4. Okay, we're going to split these shapes into 4 equal pieces. Now I can't get a ruler on my board, so I'm going to draw some straight lines. Got to split it into 4. Now I know from my other diagram that we split into 4 on a circle. We go down here. And then we go across here. Okay, so that one's split into quarters. Let's have another go for the square. So let's go straight down and across. And then finally for the rectangle, down and across. And each shape should now have 4 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we have a look at question 2, that's exactly what you've got to do now. Draw lines to split these shapes into quarters, into 4 pieces, just like I did on the board. Okay. Once you've done that, we're going to do a little bit of colouring. So please try and find some colours at home. So it says to shade 1 quarter, so 1 out of your 4 pieces in yellow. So I'm going to choose 1 piece and colour that in yellow for each shape. And it doesn't matter that I've chose different pieces. And then it says shade 2 quarters, so 2 of those pieces in purple. So I've got to colour in 2 now so that they're purple. Okay, year 4, now it's your turn. So once you've split these shapes into quarters, you've got to colour 1 quarter, so 1 of those 4 in red, and 2 quarters, so 2 of those pieces in green. Okay, and then your final question out of your booklet is asking you to shade 1/3 of this shape. So we've got 3 pieces, which is why our bottom number is a 3, and I want you to figure out how many have you got to shade in. Okay, so your final challenge then, year 4, because you know I like to set you an extra challenge, is to figure out and write down what fraction is shaded. Remember, your numerator at the top is the number we have, and your denominator is how many all together. And just to finish with then, year 4, so we'll roll our dice and let's have a little think about today's learning, today's brand new learning. We've landed on a number 1. What was the outcome of the lesson supposed to be? So what did I want you to learn today? Don't forget to take a picture and send it to the year 4 email address. If you take a picture of your challenge as well, that will be an extra marvellous me.